Okay, so we've gone through all the pre-prep, sanding. I'm going to prime a couple of them. But this is what I've done. I went ahead and put the tape around these just because this particular, what we're going to call primer, is really good. It sticks to everything. I mean, it would be hard to get off this, and this is brand new. So it just makes it less work to scrape it off of those later. And it's not that much extra work. You've seen it when I did it to put that one on. I did it around this one and moved it and put it on there. So it doesn't take much to do it. So that's why I did it. But anyway, before we get to mixing, because you have to mix these two together here. And any product by Createx, if you mix with their reducers, they recommend that it sits for 10 to 15 minutes, which is what really bonds itself together really well. And it's worth it because it sprays better. So in the meantime, I thought I'd go over a few things that I use. We got the bait clips. You know, they're simple. They get stuck in this pretty simple foam that you pick up at a nursery, Walmart, craft store. It's for poking fake flowers in a vase. That's all that's are. My mixing cups, it's got measurements on it. I actually use the, I'm sure you can't see this, but here, this kind of a pointer. This is a quarter cc or a quarter mil, half a mil, 3/4 of a mil, and 1 mil right there. Now, depending, like if I'm just going to do, like say if I'm just going to do this one because I wanted it for the weekend, I would start with like a level 1/4 mil of primer and then equal it with another 1/4 up to a 1/2 mil just to get the right, and then I would add more or less. It depends on how it sprays. If it's a little watery, because this stuff is really thick, I'll give it that. You got to use, I mean, I don't know if you can hear that. It's got a ball in it to make sure it mixes really well. It's not like mud thick, but it's thicker than milk thick, and just about milk is what you need to spray to get a really nice coat. And I use the Iwata Revolution, and this has a 0.05 needle on it, which is relatively decent sized needle, and I know you're not going to be able to see that, but I mean, you can see that. If you can see it, there's a needle tip coming in and out of there. It's probably more like right there. But anyway, this sprays a pretty good volume of paint, so it covers these very quickly. And being it's a bigger needle tip, it's ideal for that type of paint, this type of sealer, because it's thick. So I guess you can call it maybe a recommendation. I wouldn't go much smaller than a 3.5 or a 3. I don't know, man. Somewhere around there, because if you don't mix it thin enough for it to spray, it'll really give you dry tip and plug a lot. So a 5.0 is pretty good, a size 5 needle. Anyway, moving on from that, I keep these around these cotton swabs, and this is Windex reduced 50/50. I have a squirt bottle full of it. Just make sure you don't get the ammonia Windex. Just get straight Windex cleaner. And I dip Q-tips in it. I'll keep one side soaked, and then when I do get dry tip, I'll pull the needle back, and I'll put this in there, and I'll clean this all out like this, and that gets all the paint that's dried up inside there, and then let the needle back out, and then dip this side, and then do it again just over the needle. Just get it centered as good as you can. Try to get it centered perfectly, and just go around the needle, because there's going to be a little bit on the needle that you just push through, and that'll keep your tip clean. A lot of guys will spray without this tip on, without the needle guard, and I do too sometimes. Like if I really want to get in close, sometimes I'll take that off just so I can see where the needle is. I didn't mean to touch that. Just so I can see where the needle is, and I can get it really close, and just pull back slightly and just get a little fine shadow underneath something, because sometimes you just can't see the paint coming out of this until it's too late, out of this protector. And don't mind the paint all over the outside of this. Believe me, it's clean in the inside. I'm at the end of all my jobs, I take that completely apart and I soak all the parts. Clean them all up real good. I have a container just for that, for all the parts to go into. And I have like 2 sets of spare parts of everything for that gun. So they can soak for a day if I need to, which that hardly ever happens. Never happens. That half a day one time I let it soak because I forgot. But anyway, moving on. We're going to mix some of this primer up, but I just wanted to kind of go over a few things. You always want to make sure that this is clean for the next, this, you can see how much I've used this. The whole outside of this is paint, but the inside is perfectly clean. And I know because it just ran everything through it and cleaned it all up. This is the important part, what comes out of here. What goes in and what comes out. What's on the outside is just from my dirty hands touching it and being a little lazy and not cleaning the outside of it because I'm always in a hurry. But it is important to make sure that it is cleaned in the inside and oiled if need be. I do oil this one now and then. It doesn't recommend it. My other Iowata airbrush does, and I have to oil some of that. So you just got to make sure if you're going to use an airbrush that you properly use it and it'll last forever. I have, like I said before, I have 5 of them, and it's not because I'm bragging because, oh, I got 5. It's because the first 3 were a learning experience. I got the cheapest one I possibly could because I thought that's all you needed. Well, it was at the time, but then I realized I couldn't control a lot of it, so I got another one a little bit more expensive. I ended up spending 3 airbrushes worth of money that I could have just spent all that money on a nice one to start with and then maybe upgraded to this one later. But yeah, you learn the hard way sometimes. But I do recommend getting the best that you can afford. I'm not saying that the $50, even the $30 ones, they work. I'm not going to argue that because I know they work because I have them still. So you can get them to work. They're more, how do I want to say it? They're not as easily mechanically to use. You get more fatigue. You got to really struggle more to use the levers. And we're like in this one, it's a breeze. You don't even feel that. It just glides so nice. Where the cheaper ones, you really got to push down hard sometimes because the springs are really firm, and then you really got to yank back on it to get the paint, and it's hard to control your flow. And yeah, so the more expensive you get, the better the parts inside, which make the flow of the paint and everything so much nicer. But anyway, enough on that. So, to mix the paint, let's get these up here out of the way because we're only going to do one at a time. We're going to spray them both right now just to make the video a little longer and just to show how you get around different shapes. Like I said, I use these mixing cups, and you make sure, I mean, I've pre-shaken this, so we're not going to go through the whole 2 minutes, but you should shake this for 2 minutes. Createx also recommends pre-shaking your paint for at least 2 minutes. Even these bottles, they recommend shaking for 2 minutes. So, yeah, don't neglect that part. That's also why it's important to shake it for that long, because it makes the mixture of this going. Don't shake this. This you don't need to shake. You don't want the air bubbles. And like I said, I've already pre-shaken this, so we're just going to get it loosened up a little bit and go. Now, I kind of know from experience of doing this over and over and over again how much paint I really need. If you get a dark background behind your numbers, it's so much easier to see. But for 2 lures, I kind of know what I'm looking for, so I'm just going to go for it. Make sure that we're not plugged. Let me get this. We might be. It's been a while since I used this, but we'll do it the easy way. We're going to use probably almost a half a mil right off the bat of just this. Now, I don't know if you could see that, but that was almost the consistency of Elmer's glue. Not really. Not quite that thick. Now this, we'll just bring up the same amount of line with the reducer. And just mix it. Now that brought that way down, even though it looks really thick and creamy, which it is. I mean, that reduced that right in half because we got equal parts right now. But white paint even is, it's a bear because of the pigments. Yellow is another one. Sometimes the pigments in yellow paint, especially opaque. Yeah, you really got to reduce it pretty good, even to spray out of an 05 like mine. I turn the cup now and then just because sometimes it hangs up, so if you turn it, now you're scraping this side. You want to mix this for 2 minutes too, and then it has to sit for 10 to 15. So we're going to kick the camera off once I get it mixed up before we spray and let it sit, so you're not sitting here the whole time. And I'll get a few other things prepped. But I'm tilting the cup a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. I tilt the cup just a little bit so it puddles more on one end, and bring the cup, or bring the stir through the thick part. And then I'll turn the cup a 180, tilt it a little bit, and I'll do it again. Okay, so anyways, I'm going to stir this for quite a bit and really check the mix and make sure it's going to spray and all that. So when we get back on camera, I won't have any mistakes and won't have to shut it down and remix and all that. So I'm going to keep mixing and pre-check it and make sure everything goes so we can just have a smooth video and move on. So we'll see you when we're going to spray. Be right back. Alright guys, I had to do a little bit of mixing and testing and messing. You can see I've been pre-spraying, trying but I ended up having to add some balancing clear so it would help it spray smooth. But we're ready to spray after all that. I'm going to keep these things right here handy just in case I do get some dry tip and have things ready to go. But I did a test spray on the bottom of this and it's pretty smooth. But yeah, see, you can see how white. Well, maybe you can't because I don't want to tip it too much. The paint will come out. But it's pretty white in there right now just from doing all the testing. So we're going to clean that out. As you can see that white paint just from doing all those test runs. Make sure it worked. I'm going to let the needle back out and just go around that needle. Alright, keep those there. Let's flip the air out. It's going to get loud, but we're going to get to spraying because I don't want this to get any more air dried, because that's what creates your dry tip, is the air going over your needle. So we're going to get right to it, and hopefully you'll be able to hear me talk over this, but I'm going to try not to do much talking. Just watch my rhythm and watch how it covers. Never spray directly. I mean, never, always spray off to the side, because your first pressure of air is going to spit whatever's on the needle and it'll go right on your piece. So spray off to the side. I'm going to try to get here, hold on. Make a better background so you can see what's going on here. There we go. And just keep it even. Turn your air on, down for air, back for paint, and just keep it even. Go around. This is going to cover fast because it's the first light coat. Okay. Then I like to blow dry it. So hold on a second here while I do this. That's the first coat. Here, let's shut that off for a second. That's the first coat. You don't want to go real heavy because you lose a lot of the details in the scales. But you can see there's still a lot of detail left. Yeah, this stuff is really good. I love this stuff. You can use can primer, and it's a lure. Like I said, you know, the fish aren't going to know any difference between a primer and this, but primer tends to come out the same volume. I have way more control with an airbrush. Sometimes I'll go back and get more paint, like underneath. I'll put a little heavier paint, and when I come up on the sides, I'll reduce the needle or close the hole with the needle more, so it's more of a fine mist, and I'll do around here more, because you don't really want that to be thick and plug and all that, but you want coverage so your paint sticks and all that. So yeah, spray can, you can't really get that control. You can if you back up, you know, go back, because I sometimes do that too when I'm airbrushing. Okay, let's see. Let's pop that in there for a second and see what we got for left for paint. We still got quite a bit, so let's do that one more time. Let's get a little more cleaner, because I know this is going to be dirty. Even though it's just a short time of doing that, you just want to make sure it's super clean all the time. Just makes your spraying so much better. And just go around the needle. And remember, when you first start up the compressor and you go to spray, don't make your first shot right on target. Go off target and clean out everything first, and then bring it up and come off to the side, and then turn everything on, and then go to it. That way you're bringing fine paint that's spraying perfectly to your object and not just spitting at it right away. So just a little tip. I'm not a pro by any means, but those are things I've learned from people on the internet, on YouTube, and just learning common sense after a while. Oh crap, it spit again. Well, now that I know it spits all the time, don't aim it at your target. So, okay, here we go. Start over here, turn your air on, get your paint, and go. This one I'm going to put on a little wetter, and just stay back a little more. This one's pretty much going to seal the deal now. You can see how much paint's coming out. That's that 05 needle. And then give it a final even coat. And then dry it right away. Put your airbrush in there so it's out of your hands. Put the dryer to it right away. Get all that paint to settle perfect. Sorry. using the light to my advantage there. Sorry about that. I really had to make sure it was level. All right, there we go. I'll paint the other one off camera because this is the one we're doing for the full-length video. That's nice. Come out good. Nice and level. All right, we'll let that air dry for about an hour, and then I'll show you another trick. Be right back. Okay, one last detail. Still come out really nice. One last look before she goes in. Now when I dip, I go right straight in. Let me do it with this hand so you can see. Just one quick one. Now you can see already it's starting to puddle in there because of the lip. So we got to get that out of there. So we have no choice but to run it this way for a little while to get the majority of that out. Now we'll turn it back over. The other reason why I did that, it just protects the base coat that much more. I do this after every step of painting. Let me get this hung up here so it'll drip the way I want it to. There we go. We'll let that sit overnight and we'll give it a light sanding and we'll start painting it. That was the last step for getting it, let's see, what did we do? We got it glued and sanded and primed, and now it's cleared to seal it all up and it's ready for paint. So the next time we get together, we'll be putting on some base coat colors and we'll go from there. See you then.